Disney recently announced that The Mandalorian Season 3 would be coming out on March 1st. And because of this, I decided to make a Mandalorian helmet out of cardboard. And in this video, I'm going to show you exactly how I did it. The first thing I did was print out a template that I found on the dentedhelmet.com, because I'm way too lazy to make a CAD model of a Mandalorian helmet and then try to convert it into a two-dimensional template. The dentedhelmet.com is an online forum dedicated to people who are trying to make a Boba Fett and Mandalorian costumes, and it was really helpful when making this project. That being said, this template is actually for a Boba Fett helmet, so I will have to freehand some of the finer details, but it still worked for the general shape of the helmet. The first part of the helmet I made was the dome, which had 3 separate pages in the template. I took one of them and cut it out. I then took the cutout piece and taped it to a piece of uncorrugated cardboard, which is the type of cardboard cereal boxes are made of. Next, I cut out the template along the lines, leaving me with a piece of cardboard in the shape of the template. I then took some of the leftover paper from the template and cut it into thin strips, which I used to hold the segments together. I used hot glue on 2 adjacent segments and put a strip of paper in between. I did 2 of these for each adjacent segment. Next, I took some more of the leftover paper and cut it into longer strips. I glued these in between all of the segments to cover up the cracks where the smaller strips didn't. Once I did this, the first segment was complete. I then did the same for the other 2 segments of the dome. This was a very tedious process and ended up taking almost an hour and a half. So I think it's only fair that you subscribe. Wait a minute, how'd that get in the script? Once I had all 3 segments, I started to glue them together using the same paper scrap method, and I realized that one of the dome pieces was cut shorter than it was supposed to because the template had 2 lines at the bottom and I didn't know which one to cut. I then continued to wallow in self-misery, thinking that I would have to make the segment all over again, but then I realized that I could just glue another piece of cardboard to the piece I already had. In all seriousness, I'm not hating on this template, it's great, and I probably should have read the instructions before trying to use it. After I had glued together all of the segments, I noticed that I could see through the top of the helmet where the pieces came together. So I cut out a cardboard circle and glued it to the inside of the dome, which seemed to cover up all the gaps. Next, I cut out this oval shape from the template and some other pieces and glued them all together to form this skeleton of the dome, which I then glued to the inside of the dome. This gives the dome the correct shape, because believe it or not, the helmet's shape isn't actually a perfect dome, it's slightly obligated. This also provides more structural integrity to the dome, so it doesn't collapse in on itself. I then covered the dome in a layer of spackling, let it dry, and sanded it off to finish the dome. For the main part of the helmet, I wanted it to be sturdy, so I didn't want to use uncorrugated cardboard. So I had to use corrugated cardboard, the type of cardboard shipping boxes are made of. However, when corrugated cardboard is painted, you can still see the corrugation, as you can see in my Iron Man suit. So I didn't want to use that either. My solution was to take a leftover piece of poster board from my world's largest flexagon video and glued it to a sheet of corrugated cardboard, which would have the strength of corrugated cardboard, but you wouldn't be able to see the corrugation when it was painted. After doing this, I again taped the template to it and cut it up. Next, I bent all of the cardboard and connected it in the back, forming a loop. Then, I cut out another of the ovals from the dome, glued popsicle sticks all around it for stability, and glued it to the inside of the tube to hold it in the correct shape. Next, I taped the template back onto the tube and used an X-Acto knife to cut out the cheek slots. I then took the templates for the cheeks, cut them out, assembled the cheeks, and glued them to the inside of the helmet. I then used scissors to cut out the visor, and took off the template, which finished the main body of the helmet. To connect the 2 halves, I just used hot glue and filled all the big cracks in with more hot glue. Next, I had to make the ears, the little pieces on the side of the helmet. As mentioned before, this template is a Boba Fett helmet template, and the earpieces on the Boba Fett helmet are completely different from the ones on the Mandalorian helmet. So I had to freehand both of the earpieces, which took forever. After gluing the earpieces to the helmet, I started making the vent on the back of the helmet. Like the earpieces, the template didn't have anything for this, so I just freehanded it. I think the end result ended up looking pretty accurate to the vent on the real helmet. The freehanding in this project is some of the best that I've done, rivaling even the Iron Man suit. Go check that video out if you haven't already. Once I had attached the vent to the back of the helmet, I glued a strip of cardboard along the top for the line on top of the helmet, and glued a line above the visor for the brow. All the pieces were in place on the helmet. The next thing I did was cover all of the cracks in the helmet with spackling and let it dry. Then use some fine grit sandpaper to smooth it off. After that, the helmet was ready to paint. For the first coat, I put on a coat of filler primer to fill in all of the small gaps that the spackling couldn't fill in. After it dried, I put on a coat of Rust-Oleum metallic finish chrome paint, which I thought was pretty accurate to the helmet in the show. Once that dried, all I had left to do was make the visor. To get a translucent sheet of black plastic, I took a laminating sheet and colored the inside with a black Sharpie in the shape of the visor. After laminating the sheet, the result was a translucent sheet of black plastic, which I then glued to the inside of the helmet. Because when you're wearing the helmet, there's no light inside, the visor is one way, where you can't see what's inside the helmet, but if you're wearing it, you can see outside. After I finished this, the helmet was complete. This project took a really long time and a lot of effort to make, and if you made it this far in the video, you obviously enjoy my content, so it would mean a lot to me if you subscribe. Thanks for watching.